Hello, everybody. Welcome to Once Upon a Time in Spaghetti Westerns, the podcast. I'm your host, Jay Jennings, and this gentleman to my right is
Tom Betts.
the one and only Tom Betts. Thanks for joining us. Pull up a chair, grab your favorite cerveza, and let's get this show, which they call it, on the road. Well, hi, everybody. It's high noon, and it's time for episode 15, is it, Tom?
15.
And we've covered all sorts of topics here on Once Upon a Time in Spaghetti Westerns. And today is no different. We have another special show for you. And it's basically our American bad guys in spaghetti westerns. And as you know, Tom, there were a bunch of them. But I think the four gentlemen, or at least three, and we threw in one as a bonus, are the most, I think, that are recognized in the genre. We've got Jack Palance or Jack Palance. We've got Telly Savalas, Who Loves You, Baby? We've got Broderick Crawford, famous film noir star, and the one and only rifleman, Chuck Connors. So we'll be reviewing those four gentlemen today, Tom. What do you remember growing up watching Chuck Connors on The Rifleman, Tom?
That was one of those shows that came on during the week. I think it started off fantastic because it was made basically by Sam Peckinpah.
Oh.
And he wrote a lot of the screenplays. And then they brought in Johnny Crawford as Luke McCain's son, as Mark McCain, and it became more of a family show. It wasn't as hard-hitting as the original 3 or 4 episodes were when Sam was in control, but that's the life of Sam Peckinpah. They always take control away from him.
So you enjoyed the earlier episodes where Lucas McCain would kill a few people?
A little bit tougher, yeah. You know, Mark would step aside, Mark. I'm mow this guy down.
Paul.
You know, yeah. Don't come near us.
Shoot him, Paul.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's fine. I've met both. Both are nice gentlemen. But anyway, we're going to start the show with Jack Palance. And he made quite a few spaghetti westerns: The Mercenary, Desperados, Compañeros, Chato's Land, and even against my better judgment, Tom, we added The Great Adventure.
All right, Jay, you're coming around.
I know. White Fang 4 is
White
next,
Fang.
Tom.
The voice, get him in there.
Right. So if we're going to start off, I guess we could start with one of the first spaghetti westerns that he made. And
well, I'll give a little bio on him, and then we can jump into the films.
Please do.
I've got bios on all these guys, but
okay.
Just so everybody knows, because we got different age ranges of people here that know Jack from back in the 50s to younger people who know him only from Ripley's Believe It or Not type of thing,
right,
or commercials or whatever. But Jack Palance was born Vladimir Ivanovich Palanuik in Latimer Mines, Pennsylvania on February 18th, 1919. He was the son of Ukrainian immigrant parents. He was the brother of Ivan, John, and Ann. At 6'3", 200 pounds, and a coal miner, Palance was a born and bred athlete. These attributes helped him acquire a football scholarship to the University of North Carolina. He eventually dropped out to follow another sport, boxing. Palance fought under the name Jack Brazo in 1938. He eventually became a professional boxer at the age of 20. He won his first 15 fights, 12 by knockout, before losing a 4th-round decision to future heavyweight contender Joe Baxley on December 17, 1940. When World War II came in 1942, he joined the U.S. Army Air Corps. Unfortunately, while patrolling the coast of California, he was at the controls when his plane lost an engine and slammed nose first into the ground. He survived the crash, but was left with severe burns on his face, requiring extensive surgery. I'm going to break away here for a second and talk to you folks. Anybody seen a picture of him prior to World War II? because a lot of the books state that his features were the result of the plastic surgery after the burns. I'd like to see a before and after picture to see what he looked like, before, after the plastic surgery was in effect. Anyways, in the 50s was a successful decade for Palance. He had steady roles in films such as Sudden Fear, 1952, of course, Shane in 53, and Second Chance, and also in 53. In 56, Palance put his real-life training as a boxer to work in Requiem for a Heavyweight, which was written by Rod Serling of Twilight Zone fame, and aired on a dramatic anthology series called Playhouse 90. Palance won an Emmy for his TV performance. In 1958, Palance took some time away from Hollywood and lived in Switzerland until 1963. It was not long after Palance's return to the United States that he and his wife, Virginia Baker, got a divorce. Palance later married Elaine Rogers on May 6, 1987. In 1992, Jack Palance won an Oscar for Best Actor in a Supporting Role for the film City Slickers. Palance, at 73, shocked the audience when he performed a series of one-arm push-ups holding the Oscar in his other hand as part of his Oscar acceptance speech. I think that's probably where almost everybody remembers that episode. Jack Palance died on Friday, November 10th, 2006 at 87 of natural causes at his daughter Holly's home in Montecito, California. That's right above Santa Barbara. When it comes to playing hard-bitten cowboys, there could never be anyone better than Jack, said City Slickers director Ron Underwood. He was a scary, intimidating guy with a very warm and giving heart. Of note, his brother John was an actor's agent and is still living, and his son Cody, who died in 1998, was an actor who appeared with Jack in God's Gun as Zeke Clayton in 1976. And of course, we know Holly, who was co-host with her dad on Ripley's Believe It or Not from 2000 to 2003. So there's Jack Palance. Yeah, that, I guess, would that be before, or is that still after the plane crash? He looks a little bit different, but as he grew older, his cheeks were more sunken in, don't you think, Jay? He had more of a high cheekbone look.
Oh, yeah. I wanted to say to you, Tom, that I always wanted to say, Tom, believe it or not. But no, there is Jack right there. That's the good look. See, yeah, handsome dude, made a lot of films. Those were when you're an American heavy, this is the kind of leads that you play. I mean, that's not really a romantic, although he did make some. I mean, his plethora of films run the
all
gamut.
over. Yeah, they're all over the place. Yep.
But I think that he's mostly known in playing the heavy. So, but his face is, there's a similar actor, Richard Lynch, who made a lot of horror films and exploitation films. He was in an accident where half his face was burnt. His face, you could see clearly the result of it. I don't know what Jack did. I don't know. He looks pretty here anyway. So let's, Tom, let's talk about, let's see what we got here. Let's get rid of this old photo here. And okay, so we're going to get to his first film, which I think Spaghetti Western, that is, not his first film. And what a way to jump into the Spaghetti Westerns with The Mercenary.
Right.
Great tag, as you know, one of my favorite posters. Well, that's the Italian one. But the other one was, I think he sold death for a living, kind of.
To the highest bidder, yeah.
Yeah. But his Il Mercenario, and with Franco Nero and Tony Musante, great, one of the top, in my opinion, revolutionary films made by great director, and wasn't preachy or anything. A lot of action, and of course, I think Franco Nero, it's his movie.
Sure.
Tony Musante has some great scenes in it, but of course, we can't forget Jack's role.
Jack comes in and out during the film. You see him for a few minutes, and then he's gone, and he comes back again.
Right. So it's a great movie, Tom. Tell us a little about the plot.
Okay. During the Mexican Revolution, mine owner Colonel Alfonso Garcia hires Sergei Kowalski, a Polish mercenary, to protect 7 tons of silver being transported to the United States. Kowalski arrives only to discover the repressed peasant workers led by PANCHO Roman have taken control of the mine by force. Always eager to make good his losses, Kowalski persuades Roman, now in a tight spot with Garcia's army bearing down on him, to hire his services. A sadistic homosexual mercenary called Curly, which is Jack Palance, wanting the silver himself, tries to ambush Kowalski. But Roman thwarts his plans, and Curly's henchmen are killed. Kowalski renews his partnership with Roman, and after liberating a town, the bandits are joined by Columba, an idealist whose father was hung for being a revolutionary. So Sergei Kowalski was played by Franco Nero. PANCHO Roman was Tony Musante. Riccolo, Curly or Curl or Elam, let's use all those names in different versions, was Jack Palance. Columba was, of course, Giovanni Raleigh, and Alfonso Garcia was the one and only Eduardo Fajardo.
Right.
This is available both on DVD and Blu-ray.
Yeah, it's a great film. I guess there are other Run Man Run, another revolution.
Well, it's usually linked with Companeros as like
that's right. Okay.
Bookends, you know, where Milian's replaced by Musante in this, but the themes are pretty close. And Franco, like you said, stars in this one. He also stars in the other one, but you can't compete with Milian. Milian will steal the film away from you, whether he's billed as the top or secondary role.
Right. So let's take a look. I think we have the trailer to The Mercenary, Tom.
He sells death to the highest bidder. He'll sell your life for what he thinks it's worth. He is the mercenary. If you're not ready to buy, be ready to die. Mercenary.
One of Tarantino's favorites, if you've seen Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, when she goes to see her film, Sharon Tate, there's a poster of The Mercenary right there in the in the lobby. Yeah, that's great.
And as I said, I'm not going to go into it, but you know, Keoma, we know my opinion on, not as a film, but as just his character. Yeah. I could take Franco Nero with a hat with a sheriff's badge. I just can't take him looking like Jim Morrison.
There you go.
Anyway, a great film. Let's move on to the next one, Tom, by Mr. Palance, The Desperados. Actually, I thought The Desperados is okay. You know, he gets to, I guess, eschew the scenery.
Chew the scenery, he's right.
As he always does.
Yep.
Tell us a little bit about The Desperados, Tom.
I saw this, believe it or not, in Prescott, Arizona, on vacation, going with a friend of mine. Went to the Grand Canyon and all over Arizona. We stayed a night in Prescott. We went, what the heck we're going to do here? So we went and saw the movie, and it looks very American made. I mean, they're all British actors and American actors. You would not know that this is a foreign made film. Anyways, in the closing days of the Civil War, do we talk about the closing days of the Civil War every week?
There's a book called out, The Closing Days of the Civil War.
Anyways, a fanatical parson, Josiah Galt, played by Jack Palance, and his three sons are leaders of a gang of Southern marauders. Josiah, driven by his lust for revenge for the death of his wife, attacks the Kansas town of St. Thomas. Actually, it's supposed to be Lawrence, Kansas. Repulsed by what he has witnessed, David leaves his Confederate War veteran father behind and settles in Texas, where he lives in relative solitude until his father's gang invades Texas. So David Galt is played by Vince Edwards, Dr. Kildare. Parson Josiah Galt is played by Jack Palance. Jacob Galt is George Maharis. Marshall Kilpatrick is Neville Brand. And Laura Galt is Sylvia Sims. This isn't on DVD or Blu-ray. It's only available on VHS.
I enjoy the film. It's actually not bad. It's one of those that you can put in the same category as we'll be talking about Chuck Connors is later. The Deserter.
Yep. Yeah, that's good.
Or The Proud and the Damned, kind of that same feeling, that same kind of filmmaking style. So,
Land Raiders is similar to that too.
Oh, that's right.
You know.
So let's see if we can take a look at the. Do we have the trailer for the Desperados? Yes, we do. Okay, let's enjoy it as we get the poster out of the way.
French poster.
And we'll go to the trailer. You know, Tom, he's trying to cop a field, it looks like.
Yeah, I know. Then they cut away. I was going to ask if they dubbed his voice, but he never said a line, never said a word.
Right. No, it's a great scene. And I'm trying to repress my inner feeling toward this woman.
I wonder if that's the same uniform he wore in Shadow's Land.
Oh, it might be.
Yeah.
He probably dusted it off.
Yeah.
Just a quick hello to everybody. Formally, I'm Jay Jennings, Spaghetti Westerns collector. I'm with Tom Betts, Spaghetti Westerns historian. We're here every Friday at high noon in the West Coast, and then 3 o'clock in the East Coast, and then 9 p.m. in the EU and 8 o'clock in the UK. So welcome everybody. We are broadcasting live on Facebook and on YouTube. You can catch it every week, every Friday at this link, facebook.com/podcast. Of course, we are brought to you by facebook.com/Westerns all'Italiana, Tom's blog and website and magazine. Soon to be a major motion picture coming to a theater near you, starring Tom Betts. So anyway, I want to welcome you all for being here today. So Tom, let's move on to the next film, which I think is one of the, if not premier, revolutionary films of the spaghetti Western genre. That would be Compañeros!
Compañeros. It's always listed in the top 10 spaghetti Westerns by viewers. So Compañeros is about Yadlef, the Swede, who arrives in San Bernardino, which is occupied by Mongo Alvarez's band, and meets El Vasco, a young Mexican who thinks he is fighting on the right side for the revolution. In fact, the real revolutionaries are the supporters of Professor Xantos, who is away in America. Yadlef accepts the task of returning Xantos, and Vasco joins him, although he doesn't share Xantos' theories of nonviolence. Yad instead wants quite a different thing. He is only interested in the combination of the safe in which the town's treasure is concealed and which only Xantos knows. They also run afoul of the old acquaintance of the Swede, John, played by Jack Palance, who is paid by the American businessmen to kill Xantos because they are afraid he will harm their interests as soon as he has risen to power. There's the Compañeros poster. Yadlef, the Penguin Peterson, is played by Franco Nero. El Vasco is Thomas Milian. John the Swede is Jack Palance. Zer Harris is played by Karen Schubert. Professor Vitaliano Xantos is Fernando Rey. The Colonel is played by Eduardo Fajardo, and Lola is played by Iris Bourbon. This one's available on DVD and Blu-ray.
Yeah, and it's a classic. It's just great dialogue, great action, great scenes. And it's the epitome of what a spaghetti Western, Mexican revolutionary kind of atmosphere, the set design and the acting. And it's just great. It's just a fun movie.
Yep, got some black comedy in it. I mean, Jack's got his hand bitten off by a crow. He brings around with him. And I mean, it's just, like you said, it combines everything the spaghettis are known for.
Right. And if you're going to make a non-traditional Clint or Lee Van Cleef spaghetti Western, you're going to make a Mexican revolutionary film. This is, I think, the what would you call it? The main one to look at, a guide.
Yeah, we talked about the Mercenary being similar. The Mercenary is dark compared to Compañeros, which is very lighthearted. Right. You can tell by the scores. Compañeros da 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 da, and the Mercenary do 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 do.
Right, and people having body parts lopped off left and right. But let's take a look real quick at a clip or trailer. I don't know which one it is, but because I stay up late nights putting these together, so I don't really keep notes on which one's a trailer, which one's a clip. So let's take a look at Compañeros.
With Compañeros! brought them together.
You're going to witness a classical squashing of the head! Church!
Greed made them inseparable.
Don't take your eyes off the Swede. If you're nervous because you want to join us, then be my guest.
And violence made them companeros.
Give me one single case where violence is absolutely necessary. Yours. No violence! No violence! How did you escape from there?
It was Marcia. She saved me from the nail that pinned my flesh to the tree.
How?
And she ate off my head.
Don't
wanted
take
to-
your eyes off the Swede.
I wanted to see the classical squashing of the head.
Oh, right. Is that a Jack Palance smoking, Tom?
Yeah,
I think he's proud of the fact he rolls a little mota.
I'm sure he does. Yeah,
Did he do it in real life, Tom?
I'm sure he did.
Right. There's a little of the old vino, too.
Oh.
As I said, great film. Now, of course, with the great films that, as I keep popping up and back, with all the great films that Jack Palance made in the spaghetti western genre, he also made some clunkers. They're not all great. Some of them you can tell. It's not a secret that celebrities or actors at certain times in their career would take a role, for the De Niro, for the money, or De Niro. And Freudian slip, Tom. And Jack Palance was no different. In fact, there's a couple he's known for probably making two of the worst spaghetti westerns of all time, and the second one, which we will discuss later. But the first one is the original Blues Brothers, but the Brothers Blue, Tom.
Brothers Blue, also known as A Few Happy Days of the Brothers Ken, The Short and Happy Days of Brothers Blue. But this one, he's hired hitman. He looks, in fact, when I first saw this, I'm going, did they take that picture of him out of a modern day,
Right.
mafia type film and stick it on there or what? But the Brothers Blue are a gang of bank robbers in the Old West. They robbed their way through the West while being shadowed by a sunglass sniper rifle-toting hitman named Hillman, played by Jack Palance. You probably hear his name mentioned more than you actually see him in the film. But Hillman is played by Jack Palance. Johnny Blue is by Antonio Falsi. Kane Blue is played by Guido Manari. Polly by Tina Almont, another highlight. And Frank Maurizio Bonuglia. This one's not on anything. It's not on VHS. It's not on DVD. It's not on Blu-ray. So I guess you could classify it as a clunker since no one wants to put it out. But I have seen it, so I don't know if someone taped it off of TV, Italian TV or what, but I have seen the film.
No, I have, Tom. I have a copy of it from one of those sources. Could be Video Search Miami.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
So it's not good at all. Well, I don't know if you're a Palance fan, let me aim it real close, brother. So it's okay. By the way, so let's move on because we don't have a trailer for it. I don't think we'd actually want to see it. But anyway,
Yeah.
The next film that we have, Tom, is it's a more lighthearted version. It's got Bud Spencer in it. I'm not, as I said, we know this, Tom. We both have what we like and we don't like, or what our favorites are.
Of course.
I'm not a fan of too many comedic spaghetti westerns. I'm a diehard, dust, gun.
Yep. I'm with you on that.
Zoom
Yep.
ins, stuff like that. Call me old fashioned, old school, but it can be done amigo. As I said, a very fluffy title. It's not bad, but I mean, as I said, if you're a fan of the Trinity movies and or Man from the East, this would be right up your alley.
Yep. Also known as The Big and the Bad in England. Bulldozer is Back Amigo, English title. Hands Up Amigo, Can Be Done Amigo. This is about a young boy who inherits a house and some useless land from his dying uncle, who obtains a promise from a drifter to look after the boy's interests. In the meantime, he must deal with Sonny, who is on his trail to force him to marry his sister Mary, whom Coburn is accused of previously dishonoring. Sonny has in mind a plan of revenge and to kill Coburn with his hands just after the shotgun marriage. Hiram Coburn is played by Bud Spencer. Sonny Broxton is Jack Palance. Chip Anderson, the little kid, is played by Renato Sesti. He's the most irritating kid-child actor in spaghetti westerns. Sheriff Franciscus is Francisco Rabal. Mary Bronston is played by Danny Saval. This one's on DVD and Blu-ray, and it's one of those things where it's just a series of scenes. Sonny and the kid Chip get away from Jack, and then they do their thing wandering around, and then Jack catches up to them. And again, it's again and again and again type of thing. So it really starts to drag after a while. And as you know, most of the scenes in any Bud Spencer movie are going to be fisticuffs. There's not a lot of shooting in this one. Yeah, hits to the head and 2 chops to the ears. Yeah, that type.
A couple of big turkey legs and drumsticks.
Yeah, there you go. A couple of belches and.
You know what I always thought, just to make a side note about Bud Spencer, I always thought, I think he's dead too, but the late actor, I think he's dead, who played Bluto in Popeye, Paul Smith.
Paul Smith, yeah.
When I was growing up, I used to confuse those two.
Well, remember, Paul Smith and I can't think of the other guy right off the top of my head, made a series of films as Terrence Hill and Bud Spencer because they looked alike.
Oh, okay.
Carambola movies are that way, and there's a couple of them. Michael something, someone will pop in on the chat and let us know. But yeah, you're right. They look identical. In fact, Popeye movie, Bud Spencer was supposed to be Bluto.
Wow.
And he had prior commitments, so they hired Paul Smith to take his place because he looked just like him. Yeah.
And I should have done Popeye, Tom.
Popeye.
Anyway, right. Let's take a look at a clip at It Can Be Done, Amigo.
And as soon as you've got them married, I'll shoot it for you. No charge at all.
Coburn!
Stay there, I'll be back. See that, Chip? The left, the right, then back. Oh, no. No. Here, look. I remember you. Oh.
My name is Trinity, Tom.
Yeah, all over. Well, that's Jack's voice, but that's not the normal English voice of Bud Spencer. So I don't know who they had in the studio to do that one.
Right. So let's see. Let's move on to okay. Another, as I said, he made some clunkers, and I think this would fall into that category. When you're watching a spaghetti or you hear about a new spaghetti western that's coming out, Tom. Oh, you know what we did, Tom? You know what? We have to go backwards.
You skipped one, didn't you?
Okay, yes, I skipped.
That's fine.
Hey, you skipped Chato's Land.
I shift the papers to whatever you bring up. So I'm ready when you're ready.
Well, yeah, let's talk a little bit about Chato's Land. I saw it as a kid. I think first time, you probably saw it before when it came out in the theaters, Tom, but I saw it, I think it was one of those ABC Tonight, Chato's Land with Charles Brown. Hey, I'm Chato. But
yeah,
it was a Chato, Tom.
Yeah, I was called Chato. I mean, that's another thing is, I stopped
Chato,
watching.
I say Chato.
There you go. You say tomato, I say tomato.
Right.
I stopped watching spaghetti westerns when they first came out, about '68. Once I saw A Stranger in Town, I got away from them. So I'm like most of you guys. I saw most of these on TV or video before, not in the theater. I only saw Lee Van Cleef or Leone movies or Eastwood movies, as far as spaghetti westerns, were in the theater. The rest of them I caught up on them later.
Well, Tom, this is questionable whether it's a spaghetti western. But
yeah, to me it is. It's British production. It's filmed in Spain, so Got a
Yeah, that's true. Or a Euro
lot of-
Western, I guess.
lot of those actors. Yep. Yep.
And I was telling you my favorite scene before you tell us about it. You can guess what it is, right? It's where he leaps over 10 rocks and 100 feet down a gorge onto that guy.
Oh yeah,
Hey,
yeah.
I want your horse.
He's flying. Yeah,
Yeah,
flying
great
through the air.
shot.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
go ahead, Tom.
Chato is pursued by a posse of vigilantes for killing the town marshal. After some of them have raped his wife, he turns into a deadly ghost-like avenger in a hostile environment that he has become a part of. This environment becomes a death trap for the white intruders as they follow him deeper and deeper into it. This got a great cast in this. Pardon Chato is played by Charles Bronson. Captain Quincy Whitmore is Jack Palance. He leads the posse. Nye Buell is played by Richard Basehart. Joshua Everett by James Whitmore. Jubal Hooker by Simon Oakland. Elias Hooker by Ralph Waite. Earl Hooker by Richard Jordan. And Martin Hall by Victor French. So, I mean, all of those are named Hollywood actors. Probably most of them would be TV or B actors, but they're great cast.
Great cast.
And then one of the taglines is, "What Chato's land doesn't kill, Chato will." Like, that's flying off of the ledge there. Yep.
I'm glad
And it's
you
on
mentioned-
DVD and Blu-ray.
Oh yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the late Richard Jordan. Great actor.
Oh, I loved him. Yep.
Gives enough
Yep.
Credit.
Yep.
Anyway, he's great in Logan's Run, as well as some other TV movies and other.
Gettysburg is where he got
yeah.
me. Yep.
That's right. So let's see. Yeah, Chato's Land. I think we have a little clip from that, including the scene where Bronson dives 100 feet off a cliff onto a guy's horse. Yes, we do. And let's take a look right now. I'm going through the video list here. Oh, guess what, Tom? I guess when Bronson leaped off the mountain, he took the trailer.
Took the clip with him? Yeah, okay.
So that's fine. But great
All right.
film. As I said, I know I'm probably being a little bit hypocritical. You don't like Keoma with the weird hair. Then how do you like Charles Bronson as a brown tanned Indian? You know, me Bronson. I don't know. It's just anything Charles Bronson, and he's a personal favorite, like Lee Van Cleef. And
Yeah, but he always played Mexicans and different nationalities in his career, you know,
And he
because
played
of
a
that look he
mute.
had. Yep.
he played a mute in Master of the World, Tom.
Yep, that's true.
He doesn't say, no, I'm sorry, in House of Wax.
House of Wax, yeah, with
Right.
Jack,
Vincent
Vincent
Price.
Price,
Tom.
yes.
And then he followed that up with Master of the World, where everybody wears a striped shirt. Anyway, getting off topic, but anything Charles Bronson's in, including the Death Wish films, even though this is about Jack Palance, we're allowed to talk about other people. So anyway, we've already discussed It Can Be Done, Amigo. And then I was alluding to, or did we already talk about Chato's Land? We did, right,
Yep.
Tom? Okay.
Yep, we just finished
And
that.
I said we were talking about another clunker by Palance, and it's tedious to watch it. Therefore, it's called Tedium.
Yeah, exactly.
Or I prefer the title Sting of the West, which was
Or
going to be a takeoff.
Stink of the West.
Stink of the West, obviously a
Yeah.
takeoff on the Redford Newman movie. Not really a fan of Palance in a, I guess, monk's outfit. Tough to buy. Another kind of comedic, slapsticky. What do you think,
Yep.
Tom?
Exactly.
It is tedious. Tedium
It is tedious,
Tom.
yes. Also known as The Con Men and Father Jack Leg, 1972 Italian-Spanish co-production. Buck Santini, also known as Father Jack Leg, played by Jack Palance, and Tedium Manure play a pair of frontier con men who are trying to sell a supposedly worthless gold mine. When the mine turns out to be real, our two misfits, along with their inept entourage, must try and recover the deed to the mine in this slapstick spaghetti western. Buck Santini, or Father Jack Leg, as I said, is played by Jack Palance. Tedium Manure is played by Timothy Brent. Stinky Manure is played by Lionel Stander. Betty Brown by Francesca Romana Coluzzi. Grant is played by Eduardo Fajardo. Wendy Brown by Mabel Karen, and the sheriff is Ricardo Gironi. This one's on DVD. You dare watch it.
If you dare.
Yeah.
If you're really tired and suffering from, or if you're not tired and you're suffering from insomnia, throw in Tedium. As I said, they all can't be winners. Richard Burton, a bunch of other great actors, you know, probably for work.
And I'm sure he probably made it for the dinero. the Lyra.
Right, which they all did. And there's
Yep.
nothing wrong with that. But you can't tell, the script looked good, Jay.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
sorry, I don't.
they all seem to want, all these tough guys seem to want to do a comedy. Lee Van Cleef wanted to do a comedy. I mean, what, you're
He
not a
made God's
comedian.
gun, Tom.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's good. Yeah. But I mean, I don't understand that, It's like they all want to make recordings of other, after Lee Marvin did it in Paint Your Wagon. They all want to go to the recording studio and record their best hits. Terrible.
Cat Ballou.
Oh, yeah. Oh.
By the way, thanks to some of the comments I saw, it was Ben Casey.
Ben Casey, not killed there. That
So
was.
Anyway, thank you for our fan
Yeah,
base
Ben Casey.
to
Thank
come
you.
up with
Yes.
that. So next on the list, we're going to run by him. This one is, as I said, not really to me. Tom paid me $5. He said, Jay, here you go. So I added The Great Adventure. The only reason to me to watch it would be for the lovely Joan Collins.
There you go.
You can interchange White Fang and any of these other movies. Just take out whoever is starring in it and replace
they're all based on Jack London's Call of the Wild. If you look them up, the story's all based on Call of the Wild, and they just go in there little tangents. But this one's a '74 Italian-Spanish co-production. An orphan, his wild dog, and a dance hall queen thwart William Bates, played by Palance, a Yukon town bully in the gold rush town of Dawson City. If I don't forget, stop me at the end of this. I got a great story on this that Joan told us at Word on Westerns. William Bates is played by Jack Palance. Miss Sonia Kendall, played by Joan Collins. Jim Chambers, played by Fred Romer. John McKenzie, Emmanuel Blas. Mary Chambers by Elizabeth Virgil. And Hank McKenzie is Remo DeAngelis, great stuntman. It's on DVD. This is the story that Joan told us at A Word on Westerns. This is like 3 years ago.
All right.
She said Jack never received payment for this film. Said the crew didn't get along with him at all. And when Palance insisted that when the film was over, he be paid in cash, they finished the movie. They gave him a briefcase containing his agreed upon salary and took him immediately to the airport. He carried the briefcase onto the plane. When he got home, he opened the suitcase and found only paper inside. He couldn't report the crime as he would have been arrested for bringing in the so-called payment without claiming it because he brought it in as carry-on luggage. So
Right.
he got screwed on that one.
Trying to get Telly closer to me. No, it's a great story. I think he once told me he finally did get paid then.
Well, he went back to the producers probably and told them he'd sue him or whatever, because I think that was a semi-American production company. They didn't go bankrupt right after the closure of the production like they did in Europe. So he probably did get something for it.
Well, let's move right along. The story is probably 10 times better than the movie was. Anyway, now listen, you could all say God's Gun is probably the nadir or one of them of probably both Palance's and
Van Cleef?
LVF's career, LVC. And it's not bad. I actually don't mind it. I'm not a fan when Lee plays sympathetic characters. Of course, Leif Garrett, I thought he was going to break out in a song. It's just, as I said, one of these days, sometimes near the end of their career, they have to take a film.
Yeah.
It, reads better on paper, and Lee should at least cut his hair.
Well, I think one of the criticisms of this is the dubbing. I think Palance dubs his own voice. Our buddy Leif Garrett is basically silent throughout the entire movie. He was shocked at Father John's death, so he's become speechless. But Lee Van Cleef's voice is dubbed. Richard Boone is in it. His voice is dubbed. And it's just, oh my God, it's just, on and on, the criticisms. But the story is okay, but it's pretty poorly made.
You want to go into what it's about, Tom?
It's about Father John is killed by Clayton, who's Jack Palance and his gang. Little Johnny goes down to Mexico to find Louis, also known as Diamante Lobo, Father John's twin brother, to come north and settle the score. So Father John and Louis Diamante Lobo are both played by Lee Van Cleef. Sam Clayton is played by Jack Palance. Sheriff is played by Richard Boone. Johnny O'Hara is Leif Garrett, and Jenny O'Hara his mother is played by Sybil Danning, who's probably 10 or 15 years older than Leif Garrett at the time they filmed this thing. So she could not be his mother. It's available on DVD.
I forgot Sybil Danning actually looks pretty damn good in this
Yeah.
movie.
Yep.
And I also forgot that Lee plays dual roles. So the producer probably said, you know, we don't have to pay you twice, I guess.
Yeah.
Or pay another actor.
I don't know what movie Lee was filming at this time, but that's where they got that look of the long hair and the earring in his ear. One of those things. He was making another movie at the same time, and they took that look and brought him into the God's Gun as the twin brother.
I forgot about the earring. Yeah. So anyway, so I guess that concludes our look at Jack Palance. And great career all around, film noir.
Well, we'll mention one real quick here that all these guys will jump in here. I've also got on my list Welcome to Blood City, which is a 76 British-Canadian co-production. It's more of a Westworld film. Robots into the future, people wandering the streets, don't know why they're there, that type of thing. But Jack plays the Yul Brynner counterpart to
Tom, I didn't even consider this. It's a science fiction Western.
Yeah, it is a science fiction Western, exactly.
A little bit of...
Look at someone saying, why didn't you mention Welcome to Blood City?
It's an odd film if you collect odd movies. I just wouldn't look at it as a spaghetti Western. But you're right. Jack is doing the Yul Brynner role. For completists only, perhaps, if you collect Jack Palance movies, or you're into weird science fiction like Zardoz, you'd probably want to have this in your collection. But anyway, so that officially ends our Jack Palance segment. So we'll be back in an hour. And just kidding, folks. We're going to move right along and move into our second star, our second American Western bad guy. And that, of course, is the one and only guy I have behind me. There we go, Mr. Telly Savalas. Hey, who loves you, baby?
Where's the lollipops? Where's the lollipops?
Telly was a great guy, a great actor. From some of the celebrities that I know, actors who work with him say he was a fun guy on the set to be with. There's a couple of stories that I know of and Tom knows of. I guess after Kojak went off the air, he would do some interviews with reporters or journalists, and he used to live in that big, that tall circular hotel off the 405 where it meets the 101.
Yeah, Universal Studios. Yeah, something Universal City.
Yeah. So a journalist friend of mine went up there to interview him for a magazine. Hey, you paying me for this gig? The guy's like, Telly, no. You said, come on up, and I'm glad to talk to you. All right, if that's what I said. But I love Telly Savalas, especially in Pancho Villa and A Reason to Live, A Reason to Die. Tom.
Telly played himself. That was Telly. Almost everything you see him in, he's the same character. It's just Telly Savalas.
One of those actors who basically does play himself. Exactly.
Yep.
He started off, I guess we can say. Oh, do you want to give a little bio on Telly? Go ahead.
Telly Savalas was born Aristoteles Savalas on January 21st, 1922, in Garden City, New York. The son of Greek immigrants, Savalas and his brother George sold newspapers and shined shoes to help support the family. In 1941, he joined the Army and served in World War II and was discharged with a Purple Heart. After his release, Savalas attended the Armed Forces Institute, where he studied radio and TV production, then enrolled at Columbia University, where he continued his studies in psychology. During the early 1950s, Telly worked for ABC Radio and eventually became the executive producer of his own popular talk show, Telly's Coffee House. I've never heard of it, for which he earned a Peabody Award. In 1959, Savalas attended an audition for the CBS anthology series Armstrong Circle Theater, intending to prompt an actor friend who was up for a role. Instead, the casting director took Savalas' sinister demeanor into account and cast him in a character part, which led to other TV assignments and movie roles. A performance in Matter of Conviction impressed actor Burt Lancaster, who cast him in Birdman of Alcatraz, 1962, where Savalas earned a Best Supporting Actor Academy Award nomination for his role as solitary row prisoner Vito Gomez. The bald-headed actor became known for his sinister character roles, often as sadistic or psychotic types. In 1973, he landed the part of tough-talking New York City detective Theo Kojak in the TV movie The Marcus Nelson Murders. His incorruptible, lollipop-sucking character was so popular that a spin-off series, Kojak, resulted, which ran from 1973 to 1978 on CBS. The show catapulted Savalas into icon status as the very image of hedonistic 1970s. This clout allowed him to hire brother George in the role of Detective Stavros, and to this day, Kojak's catchphrase, "Who loves you, baby?" can be heard around the globe. Savalas won an Emmy, and 2 Golden Globes for his role on the series. After Kojak ended, Savalas embarked on a globe-trotting existence involving several European films and a decadent, self-indulgent lifestyle. Though he periodically revived the character of Kojak in a few 1980s TV movies, his new role as credit card spokesman likely earned him more airtime. After the show ended, Savalas continued to act in smaller roles in television and film. He died of bladder cancer on January 22, 1994, in Universal Cities, California. Savalas was married 3 times, has 6 children, 4 daughters and 2 sons.
Well, that's quite the career, Tom. Of course, yeah, one of the greatest TV actors of all time. But like many of those, they went over to Italy or Spain or Mexico and made foreign movies, which is great. That's why they're being talked about on the Today Show. So
I never cared for him in the beginning because I remember him the first time I saw him was in The Dirty Dozen.
Oh yeah.
And he was the psycho that ruined the mission and got everybody killed, basically. So to me, at that point, that's what he played was early on was psychos.
Well, the first time I saw him, once again, was a kid on TV in the Talking Tina episode of The Twilight Zone.
Yeah,
he had hair. I'm talking Tina, and I don't like you. And he would strangle this doll. Why don't you just die? And in the end, remember, he falls and slips because the doll caused his death.
Yeah, right.
That's the first time I saw him. And then afterwards, I think Kojak and the MasterCard commercials. And of course, when I got into spaghetti westerns, I was like, oh, this is too cool. Another great heavy in these films. Well, the first one, I don't think he was too much of a heavy, Tom, in Land Raiders.
Yeah, Land Raiders. He plays a bully.
Oh, yeah, he does.
Vince Carden, Telly Savalas, an Arizona land grabber, and his brother renew their feud amid Army troops and Apaches. He hates the Apaches, so he's trying to take their land from them and causes problems with them until the point where they go on the warpath. His problem with his brother, who's played by George Maharis, is he blames George for the death of a girl, and the whole town stands behind Telly. And in the end, you find out that it wasn't George, of course. Who was it? It was Telly that was the bad guy. But it's got a good cast. It's got a great score by Bruno Nicolai. Vince Carden is played by Telly Savalas. Paul Cardenas, who goes by the original family name, not the Americanized name, is George Maharis. Martha Carden is Arlene Dahl. She's still alive. Kate Mayfield is Janet Landgard. Louisa Rojas is Jocelyn Lane. Major Tanner, Guy Rolfe. Carney is played by Paul Percerni, and Arturo is played by H.P. Percerni. When I'm finished here, I'll tell you a little story about that. Sheriff John Mayfield is Phil Brown of, was that Star Trek? Senior Cardenas is George Coularus, and the priest is Fernando Rey. It's available on DVD and Blu-ray. If you watch the credits to this, you'll see Carney is Paul Percerni, and Arturo is played by H.P. Percerni. And I always wondered, was that his son, and what's the role, or what was going on? So Jay and I used to go to the Hollywood Collectors Show, and Paul was there one time. And I asked him about that credit. He says, "You're the first person who's ever asked me about that." He said what happened was in the very beginning, and it's usually cut out, is George Maharis is down in Mexico, and he's roaming around in this cantina with a bunch of Mexicans. Well, the guy that's supposed to be the head Mexican was drunk and he could not remember his lines. And after about the sixth take, the director said, "This guy's out of here. We got to get somebody else." And they asked Paul if he would play the role with heavy makeup and a beard and a sombrero and whatever. And of course, this being a Telly Savalas movie, they had to get Telly's permission for him to play the role. And Telly says, "Sure, if you want to, go ahead and do it." So in the very beginning, he plays a Mexican. And then when he escorts Majerus to the border, he disappears and he comes back as Carney, who's one of Telly Savalas' henchmen. And he's all clean shaven and whatever, but he plays two roles in this film.
Well, it's a minor Telly film, but I was confusing with something else. He is the heavy, of course.
Yeah.
And so that's what when he obviously stars in Pancho via Town Call Hell, stuff like that, Reason to Live. His presence is just so well. It's just well. I don't know. He takes over. Just one of those actors that when he's on the screen, he has that look too.
Yeah, he's just got that look, yeah.
Right, so let's take a quick clip. I think this is a foreign clip from Land Raiders.
You off and me and the missus a little traveling money.
When do you want to pull out?
Right away.
No, it's not a foreign clip. I just want to set that up. They're obviously speaking English as Thomas Dabley.
There he is.
I wouldn't want to be, my last name to be Willis.
Yeah. What?
So I'm
5 cents on the dollar, yeah.
Right. It's actually a fun film. I've seen it once. Nothing spectacular about it, but here he is chewing up the scenery, as an evil land baron. And
it's a guilty pleasure for me. I just love the score so much. I just got to watch it.
Oh, it's a good score.
Yep.
So let's move on to, I think, one of the maybe defining moments of his career, believe it or not, because he gets to star as the famous Pancho Villa. Tom, and there's a background to that.
Yep.
I have the poster, but I have the VHS poster, which because I think is so fun, and it's a great film.
Is that Django's machine gun?
Well, I think there's more than one hole on that. That
Gotcha.
looks like a beer bottle with a
Yeah,
hole
it does.
on it. But it's actually, he chews up the scenery. He has a lot of fun. Clint Walker, of course. And the lovely Anne Francis, who I actually knew, and Chuck Connors is in it. Revolutionary film, I don't think it's so much concentrating on that. It does take liberties with history, but it's Telly Savalas just enjoying the role.
Yeah. This is also known as Viva Pancho Villa and Vendetta, and the Challenge of Pancho Villa. It's a 1971 U.S.-British Spanish co-production. Directed by Gene Martin, who's Eugenio Martin. Set in Mexico in 1916, it tells of the dubious arms deal between Pancho Villa and McDermott, a gun battle and double crossing between Pancho Villa with Savalas and his old enemy General Goyo. Villa and his lieutenant Scotty plot a raid on a U.S. cavalry fort in retaliation. Pancho Villa is Telly Savalas, Scotty's Clint Walker. Colonel Wilcox is played by Chuck Connors in a comedic role. Flo by Anne Francis, and McDermott is Luis Davila. It's on DVD and Blu-ray. I think one of the funny scenes is in the very beginning. He does have hair. It's probably a wig. But to put him in the role of Telly Savalas, they shave him on the train car before he escapes. And they all laugh at him, and then he ends up shooting them all down and riding away. So
right.
So
how many? And what's it available on, Tom?
It's on DVD and Blu-ray.
It's funny. How many times you can take a sip of beer or wine? How many times he's on a horse, takes his hat off, and waves to his followers? At least a dozen times.
Yeah.
In this film, he also, I'm sure most of you know, sings the closing credits over the closing credits, and it's actually not bad.
Yeah, he's better than some of them.
You're right. I mean, some people try to sing, and you know how well that goes. But
Palance did, Lee did. I mean, they're just gravelly. No.
Orson Welles. But anyway, so you don't know what it is to be old. I know what it is to be young, but you don't know what it is to be old. With he did put out this album, Morrison did. He just talks. You don't know what
Oh,
it
yeah.
is to be old.
Exactly.
So this was a surprise when Telly actually belts out a pretty decent song. So I'd recommend seeing it if you can. It's readily available, as Tom says. And I think we have a little footage from that of him waving to the crowd. This, I think, is in a foreign language. So let's take a look.
Ringo! Sam, Samantha! I'm PANCHO via!
Kojak schimbă toți. Haine, arme și stil de acțiune. Telly Savalas intră în armata cowboyilor. Pancho Villa, Telecinemateca. Marți e timpul pentru western la TVR1.
He looks at that one guy, Tom, and says, "Jump."
Yeah. Right away they mentioned about him being Kojak. The narrator does. Remember that? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Come
The very beginning. Kojak.
Yeah, which is great. So let's move on, Tom, to the next film in the Telly Savalas Spaghetti Western OVR, and that would be one of our favorites, A Town Called Hell. It's actually not bad. Very similar to A Reason to Live, A Reason to Die, but this one has Stella Stevens.
Yeah.
In the role. R-rated, Tom, at the time?
I'm sure it was, because the original title was A Town Called Bastard in the UK. And they wouldn't release it over here on anything. They changed it to A Town Called Hell. And I think the first time I saw this was on like late night TV, because I'd heard about it and never saw it available on video rent.
At the same time, it's like tonight on the CBS late movie, dun dun da da, Telly Savalas, Robert Shaw, A Town Called Hell.
This one was made in 1971, U.S. Spanish, directed by Robert Parrish. The widow arrives in town offering a reward for the body of her husband's killer, and it's a mishmash because Telly's in it, and then all of a sudden he just disappears, and you don't know if he walked out because he wasn't getting paid or they didn't know what to do with his character, but he just disappears. But Telly plays Don Carlos. He's like the lead alcalde in this town, and then he's gone. Robert Shaw plays the priest. Stella Stevens plays Elvira, and she arrives in town, isn't it, Jay, with a black hearse and a driver? It looks like a horror movie in some ways. The old blind man is Fernando Rey. Michael Craig plays Paco. Martin Landau plays the Colonel. Al Latieri, La Bamba, and Aldo Sambrell is Culebra. That's on DVD and Blu-ray, and it ranks from, some people like it, other ones put it like at the bottom of the barrel for spaghetti westerns. Yeah. Just because I think different versions. There's some that are longer than other ones, but people just come in and then they're gone for like 40 minutes.
Well, it's a mess. I mean, it's a mess. But movies like this, it's just, the title tells you what it's going to be. Look at the cast. You're there to see Stella Stevens. There could be a little bit of nudity, if I'm not mistaken, now that I come to think about it. Or at least maybe I'm thinking of the poster. I think
she looks ripping off something clear, yeah.
Yeah.
You just got a see-through negligee, yeah.
She's never looked better, except perhaps from The Nutty Professor. But anyway, Tom, didn't mean to interrupt a guzzle there.
That's my apple juice.
Right.
Hard apple juice, yeah.
Right, and I've got my coffee, Tom.
Okay.
It's my fourth cup during the show. So let's take a look, I guess, at a scene or a clip from A Town Called Hell, or is it A Town Called Bastard?
Well, who in this town would be so lucky? I mean, what would he have to do?
The name of the man who killed my husband.
Robert Shaw makes this rebel with a cross a man you will not easily forget.
Please, you may break me, but I'll never tell you.
The blonde one they call the witch, and she is Stella Stevens.
I know who killed your husband. Aguila!
The colonel wants Aguila, and Martin Landau is that colonel.
5 of you will join your male bomber and be hanged by the neck slowly until death. the same will happen every 4 hours.
Don Collis wants Aguila, and Telly Savalas is this brutish bandit leader.
You know, Tom, the music, you're right, is like a horror film.
Mm-hmm. Well, you saw, they call her the witch.
Like Flavia, something
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
But no, I think the music is actually not bad. A little bit on the Pinot Noja. What's that Italian composer's name?
Pinot Noggio?
Yeah, a little bit. It sounds a little bit like him. I'm not sure who it is. I'm sure one of our fans will tell us. But I actually like the music. Stella's not bad, but Robert Shaw, I forgot, is basically playing Quint.
Yeah.
It's a big shark. It'll eat you whole. That's what I was keep waiting for.
The thing like this to me is like the grand duel. I mean, within about 15 minutes, you know who Aguila is. And it's like, come on. Everybody know you know who he is. How come you don't know who he is?
Right.
And they just drag it on. Maybe that's why Telly left.
I think
He figured out who he was.
Robert Shaw looks the same in Jaws, this movie, and in the underrated Swashbuckler, Tom.
Yeah, there you go.
If you ever saw that film.
Yeah, I saw that.
Okay. Anyway, so yeah, not bad, but still probably on the lower end. But it's a lot of cult film, kind of like Kane's Cutthroats. It's not really considered. It wouldn't be on anybody's top 10 or 20 list, but
right.
Just one of those films with a great cast. Did we mention the great Martin Landau, Tom? Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
So after that, I guess, Tom, another film kind of in the same vein, but this time, I think a little bit better. And we got James Coburn this time, and Bud Spencer, and A Reason to Live, A Reason to Die, one of the great titles of all time. And I think I'll show real quick before we get into it. Let's see if I can. Let me just see if I can do okay. I have this is from Telly.
That's from.
I was going to actually introduce this as a new segment, on the cuff, on the fly. I have an extensive spaghetti western autograph collection.
Did he write that with white ink on a white background?
No, actually, he's one of the biggest. He writes in the biggest. A lot of celebrities have a tendency to write small. Like Rod Steiger and Warren Oates. But Telly's one of those. I'm going to take up 2 lines, baby. Telly on the top, Savalas on the bottom. You want a lollipop? I said, no, Mr. Savalas, I'm good. But great film, of course. And that we're talking about A Reason to Live and A Reason to Die.
Yeah, this is another one you have to see the long version to really appreciate it. I always thought in this one, after seeing it a couple of times, that Telly plays this role as he's sorry for what he's done. He's got this look about him that he's going through the motions, but he's not really PO'd at Coburn for coming back after him. But was done in 1972, Reason to Live, A Reason to Die, also known as Massacre at Fort Holman. Nice score by Riz Ortolani, directed by Tonino Valerie. Colonel Pembroke is sent to recapture Fort Holman, which he surrendered as a Union commander to his enemy, Major Ward, Telly Savalas, who killed his son. His team consists of convicted felons, mostly vagabonds, looters, and rapists. Promising them pardons and a treasure in gold, they all set out for a clandestine operation to infiltrate the fort and retake it. Pembroke is James Coburn. Major Ward is Telly Savalas. Eli Sampson, who Coburn's right-hand man, is played by Bud Spencer. Fred is William Spofford, who's really Hugo Fanjareggi. Donald McIvers is Robert Burton, who's Guy Maurice. Apache, or Jeremy, is played by Joseph P. Persaud, whose real name is Term Quibo. Will Calder, Fernandez is played by Guy Ransom, which is Adolfo Lestretti. Sergeant Brent is Renee Reinhard Koldehoff, and Sergeant Spike is Alan Leroy, Georges Jarrett. This is one of those, I think it was released on KTEL on VHS, and they made up a bunch of Americanized names to fill out the credits or take some of the foreigners and make them English-sounding names to make it look like an American film. It was just the opposite of what they did in Europe by trying to make it look like an American film by putting American names on there. This one's available on DVD and Blu-ray.
We remember K-Tel, Tom, as being that commercial for, songs of the 60s.
Oh, yeah, exactly, yeah.
But they also had a distribution a section of their company where they took low-budget action films or spaghetti westerns, and they changed the titles. And so it'd be weird to see these spaghetti westerns like this one. K-Tel Presents. They did it with Sonny and Jed, too, which will be...
Longest Hunt they did also. Yep.
Mm-hmm. So let's see. Do we have a clip? We do. Here's a clip from A Reason to Live, A Reason to Die.
La banca sudista è sepolto dentro al forte bene al sicuro. Vogliamo lasciarlo lì? Sono il colonnello Morrow del servizio segreto confederato. Siete nei guai, maggiore. Voglio vederti in giro. Vai. Indovina. Ehi, ma non dormivi?
La guerra è finita! Il tutto è vinto! Chi t'ha detto che la guerra è finita? Una guida su in montagna!
Tenente Wilkins! Ha indosso la divisa di Robis. È una spia nordista.
Sono tornato per...
Fun.
That scene of just hiding his face.
Yeah, Bud's under control in this one. He doesn't do it. He's brought along for his brawn, but he's kind of does a lot of just acting in this. He's pretty good. It's not just fisticuffs and stuff or joking. He plays a decent role in this.
I know, for a change, which is nice.
Yep.
Not really a slapstick. I don't know if there's any comedy in this film. But I used to, when I was growing up, I used to confuse this title with Second to Pray, A Second to Live.
Oh, yeah. Minute to Pray, A Second to Die.
Second for Lunch, yeah. So then when I got older, I was like, okay, they are two different films. This is when I was way younger. I was into spaghetti westerns as a kid because I see them on TV. And so you'd only get to see them once in the blue moon on the local channels. And of course, with the advent of VHS. And then in the mid 80s, late 80s, early 90s, as I mentioned earlier, the defunct Video Search of Miami, as well as other outlets that you saw in either Screen Images, Tom, that magazine, or what was there was a couple other ones that had VHS for sale. Do you remember some of those companies at all?
Big Reel was one that I used to get all the time.
Right.
They used to advertise all kinds of films in there, reel-to-reel and videos. And
I know I'm forgetting.
Stuff.
There's another major company that put out VHS as well.
Mm-hmm.
I also did Mike Vraney, the late Mike Vraney had Something Weird.
That's
where I got all my Coffin Joe movies, for those of you who were into Coffin Joe. And it wasn't for them, I don't know if I would have a collection. And of course, the advent of DVD and later Blu-ray, you can now almost find anything. I actually think it takes the fun out of it. It was actually fun hunting for a rare, scarce video.
Yep.
Even though it was a fourth generation bootleg.
Yep.
From outer Mongolia.
That's right.
With Greek subtitles.
Well, but the disappointing thing was you'd see a title that you'd never heard of, and you think, here's one, here's a rare one, and you start to dig into it a little bit, and then find out it's tedium with a different name to it or something. Oh no!
You lived out here in California. There was a store called Fedco.
Yeah.
Back in the day, it was on Rodeo Road in La Cienega. And for those of you on the East Coast or out in Europe, you probably have no idea what I'm talking about. It was a store that had everything for families, makeup and tires. It was like an all-around store, like a Walmart.
Yep.
And what they were famous for was their bargain bins for VHS cassettes. We're talking 1984, 85, 86.
Mm-hmm.
They had huge bins with hundreds of titles for $1. And to them, it was throwaways, but there was A Reason to Live, A Reason to Kill, and there was, Mutiny at Fort Sharp. You grab it, He's like, oh, cool. And of course, the quality was bad and it had lines going through it, but that's how you watched.
Yeah. TV station, ID down at the bottom corner someplace, where somebody taped it off a
Warning,
TV.
you go to jail if you resell this. I got it in the dollar bin. Why am I going to resell it?
Right.
But anyway, let's move on to another film where I think Telly continues playing that same kind of sadistic, stalking character. And of course, I'm talking about Sonny and Jed, which stars Thomas Millian, but one of my favorite actresses of all time, Susan George, who Straw Dogs, Mandingo. She's in a couple of the House Where Evil Dwells. And she's just one of my favorites of all time. And when I learned she was in this,
still looks the same, basically.
Yeah, and she has a daughter who looks just like her too.
Really?
So tell us about Sonny and Jed, Tom.
All right, some of the alternate titles on this one are Far West Stories, Bandera Bandits, The Gang of the Far West, The J&S Band, J&S, The Criminal Story of an Outlaw Couple, Bandits, and of course Sonny and Jed. 72 Italian-Spanish West German co-production, directed by Sergio Corbucci, music by Morricone. This is basically a Bonnie and Clyde takeoff. Famous outlaw Ted Tirgato is joined by his adoring admirer Sonny, and they rob the property class while being pursued by Sheriff Franciscus, who's Telly Savalas. Ted Tirgato is played by Tomas Milian, Sonny is Susan George. Sheriff Franciscus is Telly Savalas. Linda Moreno is Rosanna Yanni. Donna Aparicito is Laura Betty. And Don Garcia Moreno, Eduardo Fajardo. This is on DVD. This is my least liked Tomas Milian film. He's just a complete a-hole in this. That's the character he plays. And I wonder, keep saying, why does Sonny admire this clown? He treats her like crap. And she basically outsmarts him as they go along.
Well, there's a couple times she threatens to shoot him, if I'm not mistaken, Tom. I wish she would have.
She would have, yeah. But Sheriff Franciscus, the Telly Savalas role, is almost like the Jack Palance role in Brothers Blue. He's hired to go after them and not just bring them in, but rid the West of them.
Savalas is a pain in the butt in this film. He's on their tail. He wants money from their robbery, Tom? Or
probably, yeah. He would probably do them in and then take the spoils.
That's what I thought. So very similar. Telly would make these kind of films, basically almost playing the same character but with a different name. So I guess that kind of ends the Telly Savalas segment of the show.
That is it.
Yeah. And we're going to move right along. I'm still going to keep Telly behind me. All right, thanks, baby. And I'll give you a lollipop in a second. And we're going to move on to another great star from the 40s and 50s, Broderick Crawford, who had a whole voice like this. And great actor. He was in a lot of movies. Tom will tell us a little about him before we talk about his spaghetti westerns.
William Broderick Crawford was born on December 9th, 1911. So he's the oldest of the group of actors we're talking about today. He was born in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, to vaudeville performers Lester Crawford and Helen Broderick. Taking the stage name, using both of their names, Broderick Crawford, the large and burly actor was no one's idea of a leading man due to his rough and tumble looks, but broke through playing John Steinbeck's simple-minded giant Lenny in the Broadway adaptation of Steinbeck's novella of Mice and Men. After his Broadway success, Crawford moved to Hollywood and made his cinema debut. Crawford won the 1949 Academy Award and New Critics Award for his portrayal of political boss Willie Stark in the movie All the King's Men. His television role as Chief Dan Matthews in the syndicated 1950 series Highway Patrol was his only other major success. Crawford relocated to Europe, where he starred in Vittorio Torrefava's La Vendetta di Ercole, 1960, known in the U.S. as Goliath and the Dragon. Crawford stayed in Europe until 1970, making a number of films, including 3 Euro westerns, which we'll cover. Upon returning to the U.S., he appeared almost exclusively on television before passing away from a series of strokes and dying in Rancho Mirage, California, which is out by Palm Springs, on April 26, 1986, at the age of 74. Crawford was married 3 times and had 2 sons. He was known as an alcoholic, so that's one reason why he didn't work a lot in Hollywood. But everybody remembers him from Highway Patrol mainly.
Oh yeah, great actor. A lot of film noirs, great scruffy voice. And they made some prison movies too, where you break out of prison.
Oh yeah.
And but I'm so glad he stepped in to a couple of spaghetti western roles, because I think he's he's a great actor. I mean, he adds a little class, I think, to whatever he's in. And I think I guess he came into the, would you call Kid Rodello a spaghetti western, Tom?
Yeah, yeah.
So
it was a 65 U.S. Spanish co-production, so there we go. That's that border of being partially U.S. produced, but it's Spanish U.S. production, directed by Richard Carlson, based on a Louis L'Amour story. An ex-con, Joe Harden, played by Roderick Crawford, locates a fortune in stolen gold and tries to make it to the Mexican border. He's pursued by Kid Rodello, a former cellmate, Nora, a tainted lady, and her boyfriend Link, along with their guide Thomas Reese. Both parties are being hunted by the Apaches led by Cavalry Hat. Kid Rodello is Don Murray. Nora is the great Janet Leigh. Joe Harden is Broderick Crawford. Link is Richard Carlson. Tomas Reese is played by Jose Nieto. Chavez by Miguel del Castillo, and Cavalry Hat by Jose Villasante. So you have a mixture of American and Spanish actors in there. And I think it's in black and white. I swear I saw this years before I did, but it was made in '65, so I couldn't have seen it, when I thought I saw it.
Yeah, to me it looked like, when I saw it, I've seen it only once.
It looked like a TV movie.
It looked like a TV movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like an episode of The Rifleman or The Big Valley.
Yeah, and I believe it was in black and white. I don't have it in my notes, or I cut it out, but I think it was black and white.
It is in black and white, and of course, every scene Broderick Crawford is in, he steals. So let's take a look at a scene from Kid Rodello.
All right, Joe. Oh, time. Come on. Come on. Quit stalling.
Can make it.
Get your boots on, son, and let's have a check with the doctor.
Can make it.
Lay off. He took 10 lashes yesterday.
He's asking for 10 more. All right, let's go. Oh. Come on. Move it. Come on. Up.
Yeah, it's okay for what it is, Tom.
So I got to make a note here. Okay.
No, I said it's okay for what it is. It's an early spaghetti western. So.
Well, remember Janet Leigh's in it, so.
That's the reason to watch, yeah.
That's the reason to watch right there, yeah.
Absolutely. As I said, nothing spectacular, just an early spaghetti western. It's kind of simple and plain. Looks like it was they borrowed a lot from American-made movies. But anyway, moving on to that, if Broderick Crawford could look even any more scruffier and drunk, he made one of my favorite guilty pleasures, Mutiny at Fort Sharp, because he's wearing the outfit that I think Chuck Connors wears in
Brandon.
Right, or Pancho, right, and Brandon. And it's just, he just chews up the scenery. And the poster is a little bit confusing because per un dollar de gloria, $1 for Gloria, or for a few dollars for Gloria. Everything is for a few dollars, Tom. But it's, it's an early spaghetti western too.
Yep, 65 Spanish-Italian co-production, directed by Fernando Cerchio, music by Carlos Savina. This is about French soldiers who have wandered north of the Mexican border, who helped arrange Confederate Colonel Lennox, played by Broderick Crawford, and his men against a band of Indians on the warpath. Colonel Lennox is played by Broderick Crawford, Brenda by Elisa Montez, Captain Claremont by Mario Valdemarin, Lieutenant Dr. Foster by Umberto Seriani, Sergeant Ross by Hugo Arden, Lieutenant Allwood by Julio Pena. It's on DVD. Basically, in this one, Broderick Crawford's going out of his mind. He's got too much pressure on him. He's got the French coming up here. He's got immigrants that have taken refuge in the fort because of the Indian attack, and he starts hitting the bottle. And besides the psychological problems he's got, now he's got alcoholic problems, and he just wanders around in a stupor most of the movie, not knowing what's going on and what he's doing.
Or Tom, that's basically what he really was at the time.
Yeah, right. They just said, go out and do your thing.
Right. It's basically the same character you're playing. Go ahead and live it up.
Yeah.
I remember seeing this, one of the more shocking scenes. It set up some mise en scène, which, as you know, where you set up something and then it partakes to something later. The scene where the kid's holding the doll, and then later after the Indian massacre, you see the doll on the ground full of
right.
blood.
You know what happened to her, yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean, you don't want to know what happened to that kid.
The one I remember is he walks out and he's leading a charge with his sword swailing around, and he's the only one, and all the Frenchmen are looking at him like, what is this guy? Yeah, he's completely gone.
Follow me. So let's take a look at what we're talking about, and you can decide whether or not Broderick Crawford was playing drunk or was he really drunk.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, maybe it'll play. Well, you couldn't really hear his voice because it's Italian dub, but
this is more in the beginning when the French first come up there, so he hasn't hit the bottle that much.
I'm trying to imagine his voice in my head. Is there an English dub version, Tom?
I don't think so. I think I've watched the same thing, the French version or Spanish version.
Which it's not bad.
I've only seen it once.
Oh, I've seen it a couple times because I love Broderick Crawford, you know, but yeah, so that was the Italian clip. So he also then rounded up his spaghetti Western, I guess, participation with an Audie Murphy film, The Texican, Tom, which I forgot that Audie Murphy made a spaghetti Western.
He's the only one. It's okay. I like the film in a way, but it's too American. Audie doesn't even change his wardrobe. He looks like he just came from a Hollywood set the day before.
Right.
So he just comes in character of what you'd expect Audie Murphy to look like. This is a 66 U.S. Spanish co-production, directed by Leslie Sealander. He was a TV Western director. Music is by Nico Fidenko, and you'll recognize it when you hear it. This is about Jess Carlin, who's Audie Murphy, a wanted man in the U.S. who's taken refuge and has hung up his gun south of the border. But the murder of his newspaper publisher brother by evil town boss Luke Starr, Broderick Crawford, moves Jess to strap on his guns again and head north to settle the score. So we've got Jess Carlin, played by Audie Murphy, Luke Starr by Broderick Crawford, Kit O'Neill by Diana Loris, Gil Rio by Aldo Sambrell, Frank Brady, Antonio Casas, Harv, played by Antonio Molina Rojo, and Sandy Adams by Les Marquez. It's on DVD. This is probably his best of the three because he's not drunk in this one. He plays it like you'd expect him to play in Highway Patrol. He's the town boss, and no one messes around with him. And he's got all his faculties in play here. So this is probably the best of the three.
I forgot that the ultra delicious Diane Loris is in this movie.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God. She's one of my favorites. I hope I didn't offend anybody. But
yeah, we'll have to do a show on her alone.
Yeah. Yeah. What's that Nieves gal that you like, Tom?
Nieves Navarro. We'll do those two, yeah.
Yeah. No, I like Diane Loris. She's one of them with Claudia Cardinal at 1-2 punch.
She was in quite a few early ones, too, later on. I mean, she changes her hair. She's blonde in this one, but I've seen her with black hair, brown hair. So she'll change her appearance to suit the character.
I'll surprise you next week with a show on her next week, Tom. And she'll be here.
Oh, yeah, sure.
How many of
She's
them?
still
How many
around.
times have I said they'll be here, Tom?
Yeah, I'm still waiting for Claudia to show up. Yeah.
I know she promised, but anyway. So that ends our segment on the great Broderick Crawford. So we will now move on to our final spaghetti Western American heavy, and that's the one and only Lucas McCain, Chuck Connors, and who most of you know, one of the greatest all-around athletes probably of the 20th century. He played both, I think, professional baseball, professional basketball.
Yep.
Played for the Celtics, played for the Dodgers.
Cubs.
And very intimidating, about what, 6'5", 6'6", Tom?
I don't have his height on here, but I'd say 6'5" at least, maybe taller, because he played center for the Celtics. I mean, in those days, 6'8" was tall, but I mean, he played backup. Yep.
And
so
great actor. We know him as the Rifleman. Later in life, he was on TV. I think one of his last TV series was Werewolf.
Yeah, I was going to say, what was the name of that thing? Yeah. Yep.
It was okay. It wasn't bad. He turns into a werewolf at age in his 70s. But, and then he was, made a lot of guest appearances on show. He kind of did that. I'm in my later years, whether it's a Love Boat or a Fantasy Island type of show. But he's always enjoyable. The Mad Bomber, which was shot all over Los Angeles, where he sets up bombs in mailboxes, like over in Century City. And I talked to Burt Gordon when he made this. He said, yeah, we did this with no permits. I don't know if you've ever seen The Mad Bomber, Tom.
Mm-hmm.
Great film. I forgot the actor's name who stars as the detective who's looking for him. Another great actor. But they're one step behind. And in the end, I guess he's doing it. I'm talking about The Mad Bomber because it's a favorite of mine. As is Tourist Trap, which is, even though it's probably a very bad horror film, Chuck Connors wears a mask. Or no, he's the dad of a killer who wears a mask. Or no, he wears the mask. And he can control doors and locks and everything kinetic with his mind, telekinetically.
Mentally,
The thing that ruins Tourist Trap is, are you a good little girly? I hope you haven't been a bad girly. And then, he kills all the teenagers. So it's an early slasher film. I had to throw that in because that's what makes him so great. But Tom, tell us a little about The Rifleman.
All right. He was born Kevin Joseph Connors, born in Brooklyn, New York on April 10th, 1921, to Irish immigrants. Chuck had a younger sister named Gloria. He left Seton Hall University after 2 years to join the Army. After his military service, he turned his sights to athletic pursuits. He played center for the Boston Celtics in the 46-47 season, but left early for spring training with the Brooklyn Dodgers. He played Major League Baseball with the Dodgers and the Chicago Cubs from 49 to 52. A baseball fan who was also a casting director for MGM spotted Connors and recommended him for a part in the Spencer Tracy, Katharine Hepburn comedy Pat and Mike in 1952. During the next several years, Connors made 20 movies, culminating in a key role in William Wyler's 1958 Western, The Big Country. Chuck appeared in several television series before finally hitting the big time in 58 with The Rifleman, which began its highly successful 5-year run on ABC. Other television series followed, as did a number of movies, which, though mostly minor, allowed Connors to display his range as both a stalwart good guy and a menacing heavy. Connors died at age 71 of lung cancer and pneumonia on November 10th, 1992 in Los Angeles. He was married 3 times and had 4 sons. So that is Chuck Connors. He started out as a good guy, and as his career progressed, he became more and more of a villain. So he was able to play both sides of the fence there.
I only knew him as growing up, I only remember him as the Rifleman.
Yep. Well, he was in Branded.
Oh, that's true.
Remember that after that? Yeah.
There he is.
So,
and let's see, I'm trying to think what other films. Oh, he was in Death in Small Doses.
Yeah, that's true.
He plays I guess a guy who drives a truck for a living, and he also sells pills. And it's from 57 or 56. It's an early role. Peter Graves is the undercover agent sent to infiltrate the trucking industry, and you can see it's weird to see Chuck Connors all high, pretending he's high on pills, and he loses his mind, and in the end he ends up in the hospital, and he ends up helping Peter Graves, I guess, put an end to all the pill popping that's going on. But great actor, and that was, I guess, the Rifleman's what he'll be known for. But what would life be without Kill Them All and Come Back Alone?
Well, the only film I didn't care for him in, and it wasn't him, the acting, was Geronimo. Remember, he played Geronimo. Geronimo was probably 5'4" and looked like the bottom of your shoe. And here's Chuck Connors at 6'8". This Adonis playing Geronimo. And who was the guy that was in Wild Wild West that played Artemis Gordon?
Ross Martin.
Yeah, he was in it too, and played like the funny sidekick. And the first time I saw that movie, I'm going, Artemis Gordon as an Indian? Come on.
When I saw Geronimo with Chuck Connors, I immediately thought, what's an extra from an episode of Gilligan's Island doing in this movie? But anyway, let's move on to Kill Them All and Come Back Alone. It's kind of like the Great Escape, or one of those movies where a guy has to hire a bunch of misfits.
Dirty Dozen,
yeah. Magnificent Seven, but which 10 times better films.
Oh yeah.
But I like the poster work. I have a few posters for this film, and of course the great Frank Wolf is in this film. Tom,
let me show you what I found today.
What did you find, Tom? Ooh.
I think I found the one that you've got on there.
Nice. I love when Tom surprises me.
Anyways, this is my favorite Enzo Castellari film. It's nonstop action from the very beginning. Even when they show the opening credits, they're jumping over rooftops and sliding down banisters and whatever. And I mean, if you want to see a spaghetti western where you don't dare get up and go get another drink or go to the bathroom, it's this one. It's nonstop. Anyways, this is a 1968 Italian-Spanish co-production. The story's about Clyde, who's Chuck Connors. He's hired by the Confederate general to carry out a raid on a Union stronghold and steal $1 million worth of gold coins hidden there amongst an arsenal of dynamite. Clyde recruits a troop of 5 unsavory characters to assist him in his quest, and with the occasional backup help of Captain Lynch, the gang set about infiltrating the fort, grabbing the treasure and making their escape. But of course, all does not go strictly as planned. Clyde McKay is played by Chuck Connors. Captain Lynch is Frank Wolf. Hoagie is Frank Osidi. Decker is Leo Anchoriz. Blade is played by Ken Wood, Giovanni Cianfriglia. The Kid is played by Robert Widmark, who's Alberto Del Acqua. Bogart is played by Hercules Cortez, who is a wrestler, a Spanish wrestler, and Buddy is played by Men Fury, who is Furio Menaconi. This thing's on DVD and Blu-ray, has a great score, and like I said, it's one of my favorite spaghetti westerns.
Wow, I didn't know that, Tom. Right after Forgotten Pistolero?
Yeah, right up there. Yep, I'd say in the top 5. Yep.
You name dropped Robert Widmark again, Tom.
Robert Widmark, not Richard. Robert.
Right. So let's take a look at Chuck and Kill Them All and Come Back Solo.
He works for. Here, pay your men. This is only in advance for the ones who go.
And for the ones who come back, maybe there won't be any. What do you mean?
Kill them.
What?
Kill them all and come back alone.
Kill them all and come back alone. That was the plan. But nobody was willing to cooperate or give up their share of the take.
Where is it?
Oh, I'm sorry, Captain.
We didn't get it. That gold is still in the powder magazine.
If you're basically dishonest and you don't want to split $1 million in gold with the rest of your gang, then the best thing to do is kill them all and come back alone.
Tom, if you don't want to share your inheritance with your family members, just kill them all.
Kill them all. Come back alone.
One of the great tags of it. We're out there with the mercenary narration. Yep. Yeah, and it's a fun film, of course. A little bit like Reason to Kill. Tom, would you say a little bit like?
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of action sequences.
I was trying to think when I first started to see the preview. It's like Massacre at Fort Holman. Exactly.
No, yeah. So, and then staying in those same lines, I think you can say that Kill Them All and Come Back Alone, The Proud and the Damned, which sounds like a soap opera on television. We'll be back to The Proud and the Damned after this message. And then, of course, The Deserter with its great all-star cast. Those three films, I mean, they're a fun triple header if you just want to watch a Chuck Connors film festival that are kind of the same movie.
Yep, he's in Proud and the Damned. He wears the same type of outfit too, so
right.
So it looks like he went from film set to the other. This one is always question marks about this because it's a '68 U.S. Filipino Spanish co-production, and I know George Montgomery stated that there was some Spanish money used in the production of this, so that's why I throw it in there as a spaghetti western.
Right.
It was directed by Ferdy Grove Jr. It was about a group of 5 Confederate mercenaries led by Sergeant Will Hanson, Chuck Connors, must choose sides carefully in a small village where they find themselves trapped in the middle of a rebellion. The group is torn as to whether they should honor the powerful military dictator who forces them to spy for him or help the local village fight for its independence. Sergeant Will Hanson is Chuck Connors. Ike is Aaron Kincaid. Mayor of San Carlos is Cesar Romero. Ramon, Jose Greco, the dancer. Jeb is Smokey Roberts. Hank, Henry Capps. Billy, Peter Ford, that's Glenn's son. And General Alejandro Martinez is played by Andres Marquez. And it's available on DVD.
It's a good follow-up for Chuck. And so, yeah, it's not bad. As I said, it's kind of
it's a little slow, a lot of character development because they're playing both sides against the middle, and the middle is them. They're trying to get out of there alive.
No, absolutely. Not as good as Kill Them All, but not bad on its own. Once again, Chuck Connors is one of those actors. That's why he's a part of today's list of spaghetti western heavies played by Americans, because he's playing himself.
Yep.
Except for Geronimo.
Except for Geronimo.
Also,
Yep.
Why is every scene in Geronimo he's got a knife to someone's throat?
Yeah, I don't know.
Got to think of a different way to threaten somebody. But anyway, let's take a look at a clip from The Proud and the Damned.
How do you say, passing through. Within 3 days, you will rendezvous with my guide and pass on to him all necessary information. He will return here, and you'll be free to continue.
Tom, time out.
What a score.
Time out.
Yes.
That score sounds very familiar.
Yeah, doesn't it? Yes.
I guess.
That's why you never trust trailer scores, because you never know when you watch the trailer if that's the actual score that's going to be in the film.
Wow. Anyway, so I guess that's what they used to promote the video. To be fair, I think that was the video release trailer. I don't think they would have used that in the theatrical.
It's all right. Shows the main players, yeah.
You never know, exactly. So anyway, let's move on to, as I said, the trilogy in these kind of similar movies. The Deserter, Tom, which I asked you if you thought that was a spaghetti western. You said yes.
Yep.
And it's got a great cast, including one of our favorites, Woody Strode. And who's the gentleman who's the lead, Tom? I haven't heard of him too often.
Beckham Femiu.
Is he still?
Yeah,
with us?
that's the drawback of the whole film. Is his stone face. Yep.
Could have been maybe Thomas Millian wasn't available.
Well, he was probably a big hit in Europe or wherever they wanted to promote this film, so they threw him in there. This is 1971, so they've gotten beyond that point of having an American actor in the lead all the time. They've got Garco now and Gemma and some of the other Italian, Spanish actors that have reached star status. so they can afford to put a European actor in the lead.
But I think they do give everybody in this film basically has a good role. Everyone's featured in their own kind of set pieces. There's like a fight. I think that lead actor, I can't still say his name. What is it again, Tom?
Yeah, Beckham Femiu.
Doesn't he fight almost everybody in the cast?
Yeah, because he's a traitor in the beginning. I'll tell you the story about it.
Right.
This is also known as the Devil's Backbone, the SOBs, Ride to Glory, and Indian Fighter. It's a 1971 Italian, U.S., Yugoslavian film production. I'm guessing, I don't have it in front of me, Beckham is probably Yugoslavian.
Right.
Music is by Piero Piccioni. It's about an army captain deserter who's reinstated to lead a small group of soldiers on a raid to exterminate the Apache tribe that had tortured and murdered his wife. Chuck Connors plays Reynolds, a dynamite expert. So this is another one of those Dirty Dozen, Magnificent Seven, Massacre at Fort Holman type movies where they're all expert at something, and they recruit them to go after the Apaches. And they don't like Beckham Femiu because he left them when they came back from a tour of duty in the desert, and they came to find out that Beckham's wife had been killed and tortured and raped, and he left the army at that point. And they needed him because he knew the territory, so they brought him back to lead this group. But Beckham Femiu plays Captain Victor Caleb. John Huston plays General Miles. Richard Crenna plays Major Wade Brown. Chuck Connors plays Reynolds. Ricardo Montalban plays Natache. I'm sorry. Ian Bannon plays Captain Crawford. Brandon DeWilde plays Ferguson. Slim Pickens, Sergeant Tattinger. Albert Salmi plays Schmidt. Woody Strode as Jackson. Patrick Wayne, Captain Bill Robinson. Fausto Tosi as Orozco. And Mimo Palmara as Mangus Durango, leader of the Apaches. This is on DVD. And I mean, what I name off, 10 actors, all well known. Yeah.
One of the best all-star casts in spaghetti Western history.
Yep.
No doubt.
And there's quite a bit of action in this thing, so it moves right along.
Oh, it's not boring.
No.
It's if you get past the lead, then you're good to go. Sorry, I was hoping, as I said, when does Thomas Millian appear? But that's fine. So let's take a look at a clip from The Deserter. I think Woody Strode might be in this clip as well.
I need a man like you. A man with enough hate in him to spend 2 years killing Apaches. One who doesn't care too much about living.
He handpicked the wildest bunch of renegades who ever shot, stabbed, and scorched their way across the West.
Take off your clothes. I want you to know how hot that sun up there can get.
Since when does a deserter have to be called by his rank?
The deserter recruited those who lived to kill.
You look damn fancy.
Damn fancy, son.
Those who kill to live.
I'd love to bend that rifle over your head.
Maybe the Irish aren't as tough as they used to be.
Those who just kill.
How is God this morning?
God is in his heaven, and all is right with the world.
You're one of the chosen few.
A handful chosen to face overwhelming odds.
You know, Tom, I don't think Woody Strode has lost a fight since Spartacus.
He learned quick.
So, anyway. Not a bad film. And as I said, if you get past the lead. So, that brings us to, I guess, the last film. We've already talked about Pancho Villa.
Correct.
But let's show a different poster for it that features all three men and the three leads. And, of course, Clint Walker with Telly Savalas and Chuck Connors, as we know. And we've already discussed the film, who's in it, what it's about. But I guess Chuck Connors' role, he's, I guess, the second lead, or has a nice featured role. He's on the outs with Pancho Villa, but then What, is he friends with him again? Same with Clint Walker.
Well,
They're
he's
friends,
Colonel
they're enemies.
He's Colonel Wilcox, and that's the fort supposed to be in Columbus, New Mexico, that Pancho Villa actually came across the border to attack. And so Connors plays sort of a walking the borderline, trying to be friends with Villa so he won't attack, but Villa does anyways after he's been double crossed. So,
right, and we discussed this film earlier, so I guess there's no need to do that now. I want to, at least we'll say that ends our look at, I guess, 3 or 4 American heavies in the spaghetti Western genre. Of course, there were many more. We got comments that mentioned other people as well. But we wanted to pick, I think, the 4 that kind of stand out for their contributions.
Everybody knows them.
Yeah, to the genre, and they deserve their due. I mean, so, and as opposed to giving them all their own show that would last who knows how long, we put them all together and did that. So
yeah, we'll probably do a couple more shows like this too.
Yes, of course we will.
Because we've got guys that have made 4 or 5 films, but that's not enough to do an hour and a half show or an hour show. But if you put a couple of them together, you can do it.
Well, what happened, Tom? You hear me?
Went off for a second. Yep. No. Okay. Yep. Fine.
So anyway, now, Tom, I think we'll jump right to one, I guess, a lot of people's favorite segment, and to discuss obits or birthdays, and that would be called.
You want to do that, or you want to do that, or you want to do Book of the Week?
Well, let's do news first.
Okay.
The weekly news with Tom Betts.
Again, we're in the dog days of summer, and basically Europe is closed down in August. So nothing comes out of there as far as DVDs or books or anything like that. I've got 2 passings and some birthdays to pass along. Italian producer, director, screenwriter Augusto Caminito died in Naples, Campania, Italy on August 23rd. He was 81. Caminito was born on July 1st, 1939 in Naples. He was a producer and director, best known for producing King of New York in 1990, directing Grande Cacciatore in 1990, and as a writer for The Vatican Affair in 1968. To fans of the European Western, he was best known as a screenwriter. He co-wrote the scripts for 8 Euro Westerns, including Hallelujah for Django and Long Days of Revenge, both in '66, Death Rides Along, Django the Last Killer, Pecos Cleans Up, Poker with Pistols, and The Ruthless 4, all in 1967, and Brothers Blue, which is one of the Jack Palance films we covered, in 1971. Also, as of yesterday, I'll make a quick note of this. If Mariah's still with us, she'll recognize this guy. David S. Cass Sr. He was a top stunt coordinator of the 1980s and 1990s, who segued to a directing career. He died August 27th, yesterday, in Woodland Hills, California, of complications from cancer. He was 78. Cass began his movie career as an extra. He transitioned to alternating between acting parts and stunt work, starting with the 1963 John Wayne film McClintock, on which he performed stunts. He went on to become a sought-after stunt coordinator and second unit director with such credits as Smokey and the Bandit Part 3, Knight Rider 2000, Walker, Texas Ranger, and the Desperado TV Western series. He directed the 2002 German-USA co-produced TV Western film Johnson County War, starring Tom Berenger and Burt Reynolds. When I looked up his credits after seeing he passed away yesterday, he had like 68 Westerns that he was involved in one of these positions. So he was in a ton of stuff back from the early 60s until his passing. As far as birthdays are concerned, one of our favorites, Rita Pavone, Little Rita, turned 75 on August 23rd.
Oh, yay.
Lando Bazanca turned 85 on August 24th, and the great Sean Connery turned 90 on August 25th.
Okay,
That is it.
Awesome. Put your mic in the middle so we can hear you.
There we go.
There we go. Awesome.
I'll do it all over again.
Here we go. Start from the scratch. Tom's Weekly News. So anyway, what else are we going to talk about? Well,
Book of the Week?
Well, Book of the Week, of course. I'm going to save mine for next week.
Okay.
So because I'm letting Tom handle this, because Tom has more books than I do, obviously. And I think, Tom, you have is it a biography or autobiography?
I have a biography of Chuck Connors called Chuck Connors, The Man Behind the Rifleman, or the Rifle. And this is an easy read, and it's very comprehensive, covers all of his life, has a filmography in the back. It's well done. It's by David Fury. And I'm trying to see when it was made. 1997, so it's not that old. And it's worth finding on Abe Books or Amazon or eBay.
All right. Well, I'll have to look for it. It's one of the ones that I don't have. And every week we'll have the weekly news and we'll have book of the week. And then I'm going to add, I guess,
Autograph of the week.
Autograph
there
of
you
the
go.
week. Because throughout my entire lifetime, I think I've met about 80% of the autograph people I've met before they passed, thanks to different autograph collector shows or estate sales, or I went to a theater or an opening they were in with, behind a, what do you call it, a chained off area for us fans.
Let me ask you this. When you started collecting autographs of spaghetti Western actors, when, 30 years ago?
Around 85.
Okay. Were they expensive then? Are they more expensive now?
Well, I don't really, as I said, on occasion, I will have to, if they're dead and there's no estate sale,
yeah,
and I'm looking to fill a void, I will look to, one of the auction sites, but I would try to stay away from there. I want to get the autograph either personally, someone who knew the actor, from an estate sale, from a legitimate certified seller. But no, there's no comparison. Back in the day, the early days of eBay, maybe you could find something cheaper. But yeah, a lot of people, I was telling Tom that I'm looking to get a Warren Oates from my collection. He's just one of the few that I don't have. And a Robert Shaw. Now, usually it wouldn't be a problem. I'd look in my list of actors and actresses who are still alive, maybe find their representation. It's a long process, Tom. You talk to an agent or a manager. And of course, they're not thinking, oh, let me help out this person get an autograph. But if they have a free moment, I'll wait 2 or 3 or 4 months and I'll get an email. Yes, we do have that. And you can meet this person. Well, not in the last, obviously, 3 or 4 or 5 months. But back in the day, I went to 12 autograph shows a year. I'd meet these people in person.
Sure.
And they were more than glad, as you know, to sign because they were known for something else. That's another funny thing, Tom. A lot of spaghetti Western people, including Clint Eastwood, are known for other things. But when you bring up their spaghetti Western career, like Steve Reeves, oh, really? You're interested in that? Well, here's a Long Ride from Hell. Let me sign that for you.
Yeah.
If I sign one more Hercules in the Haunted Cave,
yeah,
I'm going to go nuts.
Well,
but
as you know, when we first went to the Hollywood Collector Show, you'd find actors there who would sign something for free or just give you an autograph for free.
Right.
And they were named actors, and actresses. And then it became $5. And if you wanted a picture
15,
signed, it was 10. And yeah, it kept going. Color picture, well, that's 25. Up and up and up and up.
Well, I think it's because of they would be sitting next to their manager.
Oh yeah, of course. Or an agent.
But that's a whole other show. But yeah, I've been collecting since '85. Films, 16 millimeter, 8 millimeter, VHS, DVD, Blu-ray, posters, lobby cards, Locandinas, photo boostas. I mean, I collect other genres too, but I have friends who collect classic horror and film noir. I mean, I'd be broke if I.
Sure, that's why I only do spaghetti Westerns. Yeah.
I basically just concentrated on spaghetti Westerns. So.
Well, the reason I asked you that real quick was the fact you could pick up Belgian posters and German posters and Spanish posters in Hollywood for like $1 back in the 90s, because they didn't know what the hell they were. They thought they were Mexican films or something. And then once they found out what they had, now exactly, 25, 30, $50, whatever, yeah.
Right, like they would have bins for 50 lobby cards, Hollywood Book and Poster, Larry Edmonds. These are places in Hollywood where you can go find stuff. Yeah, I'd say 50 cents or $1 for stills.
Sure. Didn't know who they were.
Right, but later on, you're right. The price just went up. So I was lucky to get in. It's getting tougher now to find, Tom. This is the first time we've actually talked about it in 15 episodes.
Yep.
about the art of collecting spaghetti westerns. It's really getting tough to find stuff at this stage of the game. And I think about a couple years ago, everybody's just buying it up. If you're a collector, I got mine, he got his. So now if you want to start off, yeah, sure. Especially, I'm going to say, if you want to start your collection, I would advise German posters, because they are everywhere on eBay, eBay Germany, and they're pretty cheap, $5-10. So you can probably pick up 20, 30, 40 posters for under $100 in Germany. Expect to wait 3 weeks to a month, but it'll certainly arrive. But anyway, that's my tip of the day for being a spaghetti westerns collector. Let's, I guess, thank the people who are fans of the show, Tom, and who help us promote the show. I guess it's the Spaghetti Westerns group on Facebook, and we know who they are. Everybody could probably say who they are with me at the same time. We've got Tom's Westerns all'Italiana, of course. We've got 800 Spaghetti Westerns, Once Upon a Time in Italy, Spaghetti Westerns, the private group. I think that's John Delaney, if I'm not mistaken, Tom. I could be wrong. Spaghetti Westerns, Il Megalo de Western all'Italiana, Spaghetti Westerns Unchained, if you collect DVDs, Fanatiques de Westerns, Spaghetti Opera Violence, of course, our two friends, Hideki Uno and Hulk Janoon, who always let me use footage from them. They say, be well, here you go, use what you need, and I always thank them for it. And of course, we have to thank a man who's not with us. Oh, is he with us today, Tom? You think Sebastian, he's
back from vacation?
He's in Sweden somewhere, I think he said.
I don't know. I'm not allowed to look at the chat, so I don't know.
So anyways, of course, the Spaghetti Western database, which is your one-stop Wikipedia for spaghetti westerns. Anything that you need to know, dates, locations, actors, actresses, releases, backstories, different top 20s from people who belong to the group, including Quentin Tarantino, books, articles, anything you need to find is on the Spaghetti Western database. So let me also get rid of that. Well, Tom, I think we just did another show in the can. And guess what, Tom? Get out the balloons and the horn. We've eclipsed the 2-hour mark.
Let's shoot for 3, okay?
Next week we'll do 3. Basically, we'll do A to Z of all spaghetti westerns.
There you go.
We'll up for a marathon.
We do Diana Lawrence, we'll do 3.
We'll do 12 hours straight. So
that'll be the Labor Day special. We'll start on Friday night at 6 and go until midnight on Sunday night or Monday night.
Jerry Lewis telethon.
There we go. Yeah.
Lady. But anyway, so once again, I want to thank all of you who stuck around for this long 2-hour show, but I think it was worth it because these 4 stars were heavies and they actually made an imprint in spaghetti westerns. I think, Tom, maybe we'll do a show down the road. Maybe we'll just leave it a Q&A. We'll let because we've done enough shows where I think the fans can send in a question.
Sure.
And it's got their profile or their avatar so you can see who's asking the question.
Also, if they want some information on a particular actor or whatever, ask us, say, this week, and we'll get it for you next week. I can't, off the top of my head, tell you when so-and-so is born and all that kind of garbage, but I sure can dig it up easily on the database.
Yeah, well, that's true, but I think if anybody does know a date, like if I say real quick, Gianni Garco's birthday, Tom.
I have no idea.
Okay.
No.
And I know someone's going to give
He's 85, let's say that. That's about as close as I can
do
get.
the math.
Yeah.
Right. So anyway, I want to thank all of you in the United States and in Europe, UK, Japan, all around the world who have joined us for these 15 shows, Tom. So next week will be episode 16, High Noon.
Sweet 16?
Sweet 16. I guess we'll get, who sang that song? Sweet 16, Tom. What was his name?
That was, no, I don't want to say Paul Anka, but it's not Paul Anka.
Right, it was a Paul Anka type.
No, it's not Paul Anka.
I'm sure somebody knows.
Neil Sedaka. Neil
Sedaka, great.
There we go.
A lot of hit songs. So we'll have Neil on too with Claudia Cardinal. So
yeah.
That'll be a fun show. Anyway, thanks again for joining us. It's time to go. We both have pizzas in the oven. And once again, it's been an honor having Tom Betts with us, Tom, we say adios, amigos.
Adios. I'll catch you on Facebook and on on YouTube.
Right, so
answer any questions you've got.
Archived on YouTube and Facebook. So we're getting the wrap up from the director. So I'm Jay Jennings for the great Tom Betts. We'll see you next week on Once Upon a Time in Spaghetti Westerns.
Adios.